the official record of Anglo-Saxon England, there are years where the scribe ruled the lines, numbered the year, and wrote nothing. In a different copy of the same chronicle, written by different scribes in a different kingdom, her name is everywhere. Her name was Æthelflaed. She commanded armies. She raised the man who became the first king of all England. And the official record kept by her own brother's court tried to write her out completely. This is the story of the woman who saved Anglo-Saxon England and the kingdom that almost succeeded in forgetting her. This is the fallen kingdom. Every century has its secrets, and every week we dig one up. Today's case, a woman who ruled half of England, won battles the chronicles refused to record, and was almost erased by the kingdom she helped to save. Subscribe and you won't miss what we uncover next. She was born around the year 870, in a kingdom that was running out of options. Her father was Alfred, the King of Wessex, the last Anglo-Saxon ruler still holding ground against the Vikings. By 878, most of England was Danish-held. East Anglia, Northumbria, half of Mercia. Alfred's kingdom was the western corner of an island being eaten alive. In the early 880s, Alfred made a settlement with the man who ruled what remained of Mercia, a lord named Æthelred. The kingdoms would stand together. The alliance would be sealed by marriage. Alfred's eldest daughter, still in her teens, would be sent to Æthelred's court. She was the political settlement, the peace weaver, the bond between two kingdoms that needed each other to survive. For 2 decades, she is barely visible in the record. She appears in a charter, 904, as a co-signatory beside her husband. Named, present, not yet the subject. And then, sometime around the year 902, her husband's health began to fail. And the woman who had been the political settlement became the only Mercian voice in the room. From around the year 902, while her husband was alive but in decline, Aethelflaed began to do something no Anglo-Saxon noblewoman had done before. She built fortresses. Not one, not a defensive line, a network. Bridgenorth, Tamworth, Stafford, 10 fortified towns in 7 years, anchoring the borders of what remained of English Mercia. By 911, when her husband died, the Witan, the Council of Mercia, did something almost without precedent in Anglo-Saxon England. They named her Merkna Lefdige, the Lady of the Mercians, ruler in her own right. She did not remarry. In Anglo-Saxon law, a husband would have inherited her power. She kept it. Then she went on the offensive. In 916, she sent an army into Wales. They destroyed the royal Crannog on Llangors Lake, the seat of the kingdom of Brycheiniog, and brought back the Queen of Brycheiniog and 33 of her companions. A woman taking a queen hostage, in a chronicle that would not name her. In the summer of 917, her army took Derby, the first of the 5 boroughs, the Viking-ruled towns of the Danelaw, to fall to the English. A Norman chronicler, writing 2 centuries later, recorded the verdict of those who had fought for her. Viros suos protexit, alienos teruit. She protected her own men. She terrified strangers. The Mercian chronicler recorded that 4 of her thanes, those who were dearest to her, were killed within the gates. The next year, 918, Leicester surrendered to her without a fight. And then in the spring, came the message no Anglo-Saxon expected. The Vikings of York, the Norse kingdom of Jorvik, the same Vikings her father had spent his life fighting, sent word to Tamworth that they would submit to her rule. An Irish chronicler watching from across the sea wrote down what the Anglo-Saxons would not. He called her Regina Saxonum, Queen of the Saxons. It was the 12th of June, 918. She would be dead within days. She died at Tamworth on the 12th of June, 918. She was 48 years old. Her body was carried 75 miles south to Gloucester, to a church she had built herself, St. Oswald's Priory. She was buried beside her husband. In stone she had quarried, in a precinct she had walled, in a church she had founded. The Mercians would remember. Her daughter Æthelflaed succeeded her. It was the only time in Anglo-Saxon history that a mother and daughter ruled the same kingdom in succession. Æthelflaed held Mercia for 6 months. In December of 918, 3 weeks before Christmas, her brother Edward rode north to Tamworth. The Mercian chronicler wrote down what happened next. Æthelflaed was, and the word he chose carries weight in Old English, beredad, deprived of all authority in Mercia, and led into Wessex. There is no certain record of Æthelflaed after that day. She probably ended in a Wessex nunnery. She was 31. And then the chronicles closed around them. The Mercian Witan stops being mentioned. The title Lady of the Mercians disappears. Mercia, the kingdom that had existed for 3 centuries, is absorbed into Wessex. They were not just removed from power, they were removed from the record. So how does a woman who ruled half of England, who built 10 fortresses, took Derby and Leicester, and was offered the submission of the Vikings of York, how does a woman like that get written out of the record? The answer is that the Anglo-Saxon chronicle is not one document. It is at least 4, written in different scriptoria, by different scribes, in different kingdoms, all describing the same decade. This is the version kept at Winchester, the official record of the Kingdom of Wessex. In the entries for the years she ruled Mercia, Aethelflaed's name appears almost nowhere. And this is the version kept in Mercia, written by her own people. They called it the Mercian Register, a year-by-year record of her deeds. Her name is on nearly every page. But here is the forensic detail. The original Mercian Register, the document her own kingdom kept of her, does not survive. It is lost. What survives, the only reason we know anything of what she did, is the fragment her opponent's scribes spliced into the margins of their own chronicle, probably to fill gaps in their own record, not to preserve hers. 200 years after her death, the same chronicler who recorded what her soldiers said of her, William of Malmesbury, went further. He called her the dread of men, more illustrious than Caesar himself. That is an Anglo-Norman monk going further than her own brother's court ever did. Edward the Elder needed to be the king who united England. Acknowledging his sister split the credit, so his scribes did not acknowledge her. She was buried in a church she built. In stone she had quarried, in ground she had walled. That much survived, and in a chronicle her opponents kept, a fragment of the record her own people made of her, survived inside their book. They were trying to write Wessex's history. They accidentally preserved hers. There is one more piece of evidence. Her brother's son was raised at her court, sent as a child to Tamworth to be educated. His name was Æthelstan. In 927, he became the first king of all England, the unification his uncle Edward had begun, completed by the boy educated in her household. The man the official record credits with creating England was educated at the court of the woman the official record tried to forget. We know about Æthelflaed because the Mercians kept their own record, and that record was spliced, by accident or by inattention, into the book her enemies kept. Most women in this period did not have a Mercian register. We do not know what was in the silences, but somewhere in the empty lines of the records that did survive, other women are waiting to be read. There is a statue of Æthelflaed at Tamworth. It was put up in 1913, 1,000 years after she founded the burh. It took the Mercians a millennium to put her name back on the ground. If you know a story like hers, one the official record didn't keep, tell us in the comments. We read them. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and follow every case. Next week, we open a new one. Every century has its secrets. We dig them up.